Good morning. This is Dr. Hansa Das and I welcome you to my channel History with Hansa. So today we are going to deal with a very interesting topic, which is who were the capitalists and why did they colonize? We have been trying to understand capitalism and imperialism since a very long time through a number of videos which I have put up in the past. Today, we will look deeply into actually who the capitalists were and why was there a need for capitalist nations to expand. So today, I'll narrate to you the entire story of how in the European continent capitalism emerged as a major ideology and why capitalism needed expansion, why capitalism needed imperialism for its sustenance. So let us begin. So the story begins with the Industrial Revolution. As you see the picture of industries which are being set up producing smoke and factories and industries spread out all over. So Industrial Revolution was basically in very simple terms about the setting up of industries, about the setting up of the factories. Now when did this happen and where did this happen? Let us check out that also. So it took place, the first industrial revolution took place between the 1780s and 1850s in England for the first time. So England was the first country to industrialize, and gradually industrialization also came about in European countries and also in the USA, and definitely industrialization had far-reaching effects. Now before we look into how industrialization or industrial revolution created capitalism, let us see the basic inventions that took place during the Industrial Revolution. I haven't explained them in detail. I have just given you some pictures so that you can understand what major inventions took place. So new factories were set up like coal industry. You have it on your screen. Iron industry. Then we have cotton spinning and weaving, steam power, locomotives. So a lot of inventions were taking place during this phase, which transformed the entire economy of the countries which were industrializing. Now let us see how industrialization leads to the emergence of capitalism. Okay, now you need to understand that in order to sustain industrialization or to industrialize, there are three things which are very important. And if you don't have these three things, you cannot industrialize. Any country cannot industrialize. So the first very important thing for industrialization is capital for investment. You can see a picture of how the hand is dropping coins, and so capital, or in very simple terms if you call money, that is very important for investment. If you're not investing capital, where do you get the land for setting up the factories? How do you set up the machines? How do you buy the raw materials? How do you pay the transportation cost? How do you pay the workers? So capital is the most essential or the first essential requirement of industrialization. You ought to have capital, only then you can industrialize. The second important thing is raw materials. For producing any good, for manufacturing any commodity, you need raw materials. If you don't have raw materials, obviously you cannot produce any good. So the second important condition for industrialization or requirement for industrialization is raw materials. And the third important thing is market. Why market is important? Because yes, if you are producing goods, if you're manufacturing commodities, then you're not manufacturing the commodity and throwing it into the ocean. You obviously have to do something with it so that it brings profit. And how do you get the returns? How do you get the returns of the production of the commodity? So you ought to have a market where you can sell goods. Now what is a market? Literally speaking, a market is a place where goods are bought and sold. So when you are producing a particular commodity, you have to sell it in the market so you get back the returns, you get back the profit for reinvesting. So I hope this point is clear that for industrialization, three things are important. First is of course capital, second is raw materials, and third is market. Now the next thing we ought to know is that in the process of industrialization, capitalism is created. Now what is capitalism? But before that, we have to understand that the class there, if capital is required for investment, then certainly there is a class which is investing capital. And the class which is investing capital becomes very powerful because capitalism is the most essential requirement of industrialization. So this is one class of industrialists which is developing, and there is another class which is the working class which worked on machines in the factory, because you need somebody to work on the machines also. So basically, out of the industrial revolution, two classes are being created. Now, what are the two classes? The first class came to be known as the capitalist class. Why capitalist class? Since it was investing capital, so it came to be known as the capitalist class. Okay, you can see the picture of big business and how the capitalist class is appropriating all the money, appropriating all the profit that is coming back from the market by selling the goods. Now, the second class is known as the working class. As you can see in the picture, the working class is in a very pitiable condition, and although it is working on machines in the industry, their condition is not very good and they are practically being exploited by the capitalist class. So, till now, we have seen that because of industrialization, two classes are being created in the economy. First is the capitalist class, which is investing capital, and the second is the working class, which is working on machines in the factory. Now, now, we have seen that the capitalist class is investing capital in industry. Now, the question arises, why did the capitalist class invest in industry? What was the motive of the capitalist class to invest in industry? And the answer is very clear, it is profit. Of course, if you are investing something, you are expecting back a profit, because if you don't have profit, number one, you will not have enough capital to reinvest in the industry, and number two, if you don't have profit, you will not have the incentive to reinvest in industry. So both these factors are at work. You will have no capital and you will have no incentive to reinvest. So it is very important for the capitalist class to get back profit from the goods or from the commodities it is manufacturing in the industries. So now, when profit is very essential for the capitalist class is going on looking for profit everywhere in the country. Now, we have seen that profit is essential for the capitalist class. Why profit is essential, we have seen. Now, the next question is, where would the capitalist class get profit from? This we have seen that profit is essential. But the next question that arises is that how will this profit come? How will this profit come for the capitalist class? Now, the capitalist class acquires this profit by two methods. First is through the exploitation of the workers, and the second is through colonialism. Now, let's see how through the exploitation of the working class, the capitalist class is acquiring profit. Okay, now the question is, how is the worker being exploited, and how through the exploitation of the worker the capitalist class is gaining profit? Number one, the capitalist class is paying low wages to the worker. So if you're paying low wages to the worker, if a worker deserves a certain amount of wage in a particular day, and if you are giving him wage less than that, then what remains goes directly into the pocket of the capitalist. So this is one way. What is another way of exploiting the working class? Another way is that they were made to work beyond their capacity, because the capitalist class did not consider the human angle of the entire story. The capitalist class just calculated mathematically that if a worker is working for 8 hours in a day and producing this much amount of goods or commodities, or making this much amount of production, if you double the number of hours, if you double it from 8 to 16, the production will also double. But here the capitalist is calculating very mathematically. Actually, it is not possible for anybody to work for 20 hours a day. You need to sleep, otherwise when you are working on the machines, you will have your hands cut, your legs cut, anything can happen. So the capitalist is thinking only mathematically, he is not bringing in the human angle which is also hidden behind this. So when the capitalist class is paying low wages to the workers, and when the capitalist class is making the worker work beyond his capacity so that production doubles, or so that production increases, he is getting profit, because whatever is left, whatever he's not paying to the worker which he deserves, actually comes back into his profit. So this brings profit to the capitalist class. So this is one way in which the capitalist will get profit. What is the second way in which capitalist will get profit? Let us see that. Okay, now before that, the relationship that developed between the capitalist class and working class was that of exploitation. So naturally, if the capitalist class is not treating the working class well, naturally it will be called exploitation. As you see in the picture, the capitalist is pressing the worker so much for money that the worker is being exploited to a large extent, and the capitalist is gaining all profit out of it. Okay, now the next method through which the capitalist will get profit, that is through colonialism. Now, how colonialism will help in helping the capitalist get profit? Okay, now I told you that there are three things which are very essential for capitalism: capital for investment, raw materials, and market. Now, just look into this proposition. If raw materials are acquired cheaply, if the capitalist class gets raw materials at cheap cost, he will get profit, number one. And number two, if whatever he is selling in the market is sold at higher prices, then he will get market. Now the question is, how will he get the raw materials cheaply, and how will he sell his commodities or his goods in the market at high price? This is a very big question. And this question, the answer to this question lies in colonialism. Now, what is colonialism and what is a colony? The country which is subjugated by a metropolitan capitalist country is a colony. And what happens in a colony is colonialism. For example, India was a colony of England. Now, when India is a colony of England, then naturally England has both economic and political control over India. So naturally it can pick up raw materials from the colony at very cheap rate because there will be no opposition. So this is how it is getting raw materials cheaply. And when the entire handicraft industry or whatever rural industry is there in the colony is destroyed, then the capitalist nation can sell its products or can sell its commodities at very high prices in the colony. So the solution to getting profit is getting cheap raw materials and markets where goods can be sold at high prices. And this is possible if the capitalist nation acquires a colony, because if he has a colony, it can get raw materials cheaply, and also its goods can be sold at high prices in the market. Okay, so this is how making a colony would help the capitalist get profit. Both these things would come automatically: raw materials cheaply and goods sold at high prices in the market. Both these would bring profit to the capitalist class. So this is a picture of colonialism. You can see that during this period, particularly when the Industrial Revolution had taken place, and subsequently when capitalist nations emerged all over the European continent, and later, as I told you, outside the European continent also. So these capitalist nations had colonies all over the world. As you can see, particularly in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, all the capitalist nations have different colonies here. And you can see, for example, the colonies of England, the colonies of Germany, of France, of USA. So all these capitalist nations had colonies all over the world, because unless they had colonies, it would not have been possible for them to acquire profit. So the entire story revolves around the idea of profit. The capitalist class needs profit. From where will he get profit? Through exploitation of workers and through colonialism. So this is the entire story of who the capitalists were and why they needed to expand. I hope you find this lecture interesting. If there is anything which you feel I have missed out or I have not been able to explain properly, please write in the comment box, and do share it with me. If you like the video, please share and subscribe it. See you in the next video with an even more interesting topic. Thank you.